let's jump right into this explainer. If you've ever wondered how intelligence analysts uncovered the really deep, hidden truths about a company, let's just call them Acme Corp, using nothing but publicly available information, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're building a mature corporate open-source intelligence workflow from the ground up. Because as you'll see, a true OSINT investigation goes way, way beyond just typing a business name into a standard search engine. To put this into perspective, think about the internet like an iceberg. Standard search engines, the ones we use every single day, they really only scrape the surface. That's maybe 5% of the web. The other 95% of actionable corporate data, that is hidden deep below the surface. We're talking about unindexed cloud storage, patent filings, research articles, complex legal documents, and financial records. They are absolutely publicly accessible, but they're completely invisible to a simple Google search. So here's our investigative roadmap for today. We'll start by moving beyond the surface search, then look at the OSINT investigation cycle, corporate identity and records, mapping digital infrastructure, discovering the human element, and we'll wrap up with analysis, mapping, and corroboration. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Beyond the Surface Search. We have to start with a really crucial distinction, because out in the wild, data is literally just raw noise until you process it. For instance, finding a random court filing online. That's just open source data. Filtering that filing to see if it actually involves your target. Now it's open source information. But when you cross-reference that document with, say, property records to legally prove a hidden corporate relationship, boom, now you have actionable open source intelligence, or OSINT. Moving right along to Section 2, the OSINT investigation cycle.
A mature investigation doesn't just wander aimlessly around the internet. It needs a very strict framework. This is the OSINT life cycle, moving step by step from planning to collection, processing, analysis, and finally, dissemination. Planning is absolutely vital here. It ensures you know exactly which legal entity you're targeting before you collect a single byte of data.
Now, when you're investigating a company, the golden rule is usually don't let them know you're looking. That's why corporate investigators stick to passive and semi-passive collection methods. Active scanning, like directly probing a target's servers, leaves digital fingerprints, it triggers security alarms, and frankly, it's often considered malicious. So we rely on specialized third-party tools to gather our data passively from a nice, safe distance.
All right, Section 3, corporate identity and records.
Okay, so before we do anything else, we have to establish a strict baseline. We aren't just looking for a catchy brand name. We need the exact legal entity name, any doing business as designations, their registered jurisdiction, and their formation date. Identifying the true parent company and its subsidiaries is absolutely critical. It's the foundational step we have to take before pivoting to those more complex digital footprints. And when you're hunting for that legal identity, remember, primary government records generally outrank commercial databases every single time. Specialized tools like Open Corporates can search state business registries all over the globe to give us that rock-solid legal identity. Or, if it's a public company, financial databases like the SEC's EDGAR system are an absolute goldmine. You can pull financial filings to uncover revenue, debt, and all sorts of hidden subsidiaries. If we want to dig even deeper, platforms like Muckrock are incredible. They streamline Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA requests, helping uncover previously hidden government contracts and regulatory actions. And hey, never underestimate historical archives like the Wayback Machine. Exploring past versions of a company's website can reveal deleted claims, former executives, or historical risk factors that they'd probably prefer stayed buried. Which brings us to Section 4, Mapping the Digital Infrastructure. So, now that we know exactly who we're looking at, we pivot to their digital surface area, which is usually massive. We need to meticulously catalog their domains, IP addresses, and trusted networks. But here's a really fun trick. You don't always need complex technical tools to map this out. By simply analyzing a company's public job postings, you can often figure out exactly which cloud providers they use or what their internal tech stack looks like, just based on the engineering skills they're trying to hire for. Let's compare two essential tools for mapping this footprint: Whois and Showdown. Whois acts kind of like a digital property deed. It shows us the administrative side, like who legally registered a domain. Showdown, on the other hand, is basically a search engine for the Internet of Things. It lets us passively map the internet-connected devices, servers, and open ports running behind those domains without ever actively touching the target's network ourselves. And understanding a target's network infrastructure through something like the MITRE ATTK framework is a huge step. Why? Because this is exactly how adversaries plan their initial cyber attacks. By mapping IP blocks, domains, and software versions using just open sources, an investigator can sit back and see the exact same vulnerabilities that a malicious hacker sees from the outside.
Moving right into Section 5, discovering the human element.
Beyond the servers and domains, every company is run by people. Using platforms like LinkedIn is great for mapping out current employees, but we can get much more creative. A tool like Woxy, for example, uncovers historic domain registrants. That can reveal the personal email addresses of whoever originally bought the company's websites years ago. If we cross-reference those emails in databases like Have I Been Pwned, we can see if they were exposed in public data breaches. Suddenly, we've seamlessly connected a physical employee to a tangible digital vulnerability. But we have to be incredibly careful here. A mature investigation has to constantly watch out for a massive pitfall: false attribution. If you're investigating someone with a common name, say John Smith at Acme Global, it is ridiculously easy to mix them up with a different John Smith over at Acme Incorporated. This is exactly why we spent so much time establishing that exact legal identity back in Step 1, to anchor our findings in truth and make sure we aren't tying innocent people to our target.
Finally, we reach Section 6, analysis, mapping, and corroboration.
Okay, this is where all the pieces come together. The OSINT framework is this brilliant visual guide that categorizes over 30 types of search objects. It essentially dictates exactly where you should pivot next. Find a new email address, the framework shows you the exact tools to pivot from that email to a username, and then from that username straight to a physical geolocation. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. By feeding our raw findings into relationship mapping software, tools like Maltego or Spiderfoot, we get this amazing synergistic effect. One piece of information automatically enriches another. An IP address points to a server, which points to an email, which points right to a corporate executive. We build a visual entity graph to corroborate our data, assign confidence levels, and carefully document any intelligence gaps where things might contradict each other. The entire investigation ultimately culminates in the dissemination phase, where we package our corroborated findings into a structured competitive intelligence report. This report delivers a clear executive summary, outlines our exact methodology and data sources to ensure credibility, and provides actionable, strategic insights based purely on public data. We've literally transformed the raw noise of the internet into strategic clarity.
So, we've traced a company from its foundational legal paperwork all the way down to its servers, its employees, and its historic web footprint. I want to leave you with this final critical thought. If a competitor or an adversary used these exact open source techniques against your organization today, what sensitive vulnerabilities would they find hiding in plain sight?